Let's talk about straddles, strangles, and combinations. The math on them is essentially the same. The only difference is really straddles have the same strike price, strangles have different strikes, and combinations have different expiration dates. So what are they? A long straddle or strangle, I'll just call it straddle, just keep it simple, is you're buying a call and buying a put, right? So buying the right to purchase stock, buying the right to sell stock. Or if you're short a straddle or strangle, you're selling the obligation to sell stock and you're selling the obligation to buy stock. So, for example, let's talk about AMD today. AMD had a massive 20% move up because of its, partnership with OpenAI. So I think it closed today somewhere in the 200s. And, if we work backwards, I don't know what it opened at. What is that? About like 180 or something. No, more than that, probably like 160 or something like that. It must have been up before and probably up like 40 bucks if my math is right. Yeah, because 10 is 16 plus 32, 160, 192. So maybe like 170 or so, right? So let's say you knew that something big was going to let's say AMD was at $170 or so. I don't know, keep it simple. And let's say you knew something big was going to happen in it. You just, I don't know, a hunch or who knows, whatever. You did your research and maybe you knew the information out before. Hopefully you're not insider trading or anything like that. So, um, how could you take advantage of this information? So you could buy a call, which is the right to purchase stock, let's say at 170, buy the right to sell stock at 170. Or what you can do if you want to pay a little bit less, right? Because you're gonna have to pay a little more on the premiums, right? Because the strike's right there. You can go a little wider out. Like, what if you buy the right to buy the stock at 180 and the right to sell the stock at 160, right? So sometimes strangles are called a poor man's straddle because of the fact that, it's different strikes, you're getting a way cheaper price, right? And then if you're right, you're going to make a lot more money. So in this case, you'd still be right, still make good money. So now, what's the mathematics on the strategy? So in this case, you're buying two rights. Your max loss is just going to be the total of the premiums. I mean, how can you lose more than that? The analogy I give is if you're, buying two concert tickets, like you're buying a ticket to, Taylor Swift or Bad Bunny, and you're figuring out where you want to go, right? Like, I mean, you have the right to go to either or, you can go to neither, right? Worst case scenario, you go to neither, you don't spend any more money, buy a t-shirt or mug or whatever. What about your max gain? Your max gain is going to be unlimited, right? Because there's no upper bound to how high AMD can go, right? AMD could have opened up at 1,000 or 10,000. Now, again, obviously there's a realistic limit, but theoretically, what if it splits seven times and it keeps going up and they discover the key to curing cancer or something crazy like that? I mean, it could go up as high as you want, so there's no upper bound. So, and the put, which is the right to sell, is not going to be holding you back by much. Whatever the premiums the put is, that doesn't mean that there's an upper bound in the stock limit, right? And then the tricky part is the break evens. What are the break evens? The break evens are going to be you the call price plus the call premium, and then the put price minus the put premium. So, I'm sorry, the total of the premiums plus the call price, the total of the premiums minus the put price. So if it's a straddle and they're both 170, right? And let's say you spent, I don't know, like call it I don't know, 15 on the premiums, which would be 15 controls one contract. There's 100 contracts, be 1,500. Your max, your break even is going to be 170 plus 15, 185, 170 minus 15, 155. Now, if you had the right to buy at 180 and the right to sell at 160, and you paid a total of like five for that, right? It would be 180 plus five, 185, 160 minus five, 155, right? So you want the stock to either go above 185 or below 155, right? And then if you were the seller of that, you'd want the opposite. You'd want it to stay in that range. You want it to stay in that range. Now, naturally, as you can imagine, selling a straddle or strangle is probably the most dangerous trade you can make because you get screwed on both sides. Stock goes to zero, you're in trouble, right? You don't lose an infinite amount, but you'd lose quite a bit, right? You'd lose down to zero. You'd have to basically purchase the stock for like 165 when the stock's worth zero if it went bankrupt, right? So you're in trouble. But, And then you could get screwed if the stock goes way up. You could lose an unlimited amount. Now, if you're doing something like that on Apple, it's relatively safe because of the fact that, you know what I mean, how much is Apple really going to go up or down? I mean, it could go probably up a lot more than down, but but there's always an element of like implied volatility. So, you're either betting against volatility or you're betting, think the volatility is going to beat what's the expected volatility. So a lot of that is kind of, pricing in and you're just being able to anticipate, right? And then if just to kind of hit the short side of that trade, if it's a short straddle or strangle, basically your max gain is just going to be the premium, right? Because whatever you're selling it for, that's the most you can gain. Your max loss is going to be infinite because you're selling a naked call, right? That's part of it. And then your break evens are going to be the same as on the upside. You add both premiums to the call price, subtract both premiums from the put price. So, options are what's cool about them. They're a zero sum game. Just a fancy word to saying whatever I win, you lose. Whatever you lose, I win. It's like playing a poker. Texas Hold'em 101. So hope that helps. Thanks.